Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Chris and this is ANC Candles and KF Fresheners. If you're joining me for the first time, I want to welcome you specially. And if you're a returning subscriber, I want to also welcome you specially. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Today, I will be continuing the Ultimate Air Freshener toolkit. So today will be 4 other toolkits I'll be talking about, and all these toolkits that I've talked about, you can go on my website and you can see them there. Okay, so the next one I'll be talking about will be actually the next 4 I'll be talking about will be the dynamic recommendation. The other one will be the fragrance strength optimizer, and I'll also be talking about a dynamic saturation indicator. And the last one for today will be absorption time estimator. All right, guys, so I will jump on the computer and I will show you guys how they work, and then we'll come back at the end and we'll talk about some other things. All right, guys, stay tuned as we jump in. Thank you guys for sticking by me and sticking with me. All right, let's jump into it. All right, guys, so this is the dynamic recommendation. And what this tool does is it gives you recommendation based on your fragrance oil ratio, and also analyzes if your fragrance ratio is adequate. That is, if it's too much or if it's too less, or if it's good for your cardstocks. All right, so it is important that you also note that your fragrance oil already, it's not concentrated. All right, most of our fragrance oils are not concentrated. When you're buying fragrance oils from like some of these online stores, they are not highly concentrated because they are just not, right? They cut them by diluting them a little bit so that it's not overpowering. If it's 100% concentrated, then number one, it will be too expensive for you to buy, and number two, it will be so much empowering that even you yourself cannot even use them. You yourself cannot use them as product, and your customers will not love them because they will be really, really strong. So that's why fragrance oils are cut. That's why even perfumes are cut. They are not 100%. Okay, you can look this up too if you want to. That being said, your fragrance oil is being cut already. So if you're going to use DPG or any carrier oil, you are furthermore cutting them, right? So that's why it is important that when you do your fragrance oil ratio, you want to put it in the higher amount or in the higher percent. So for example, I love using 70% to 30% of DPG. So 70% of fragrance oil to 30% of DPG, because that fragrance oil has already been cut. All right. Now, if I'm using a full undiluted fragrance oil, not cut, highly concentrated, then I'm going to use 30% of fragrance oil to 70% of DPG. Okay, so that is what I want you guys to understand for now. All right, so now let's get into this. So if I say my absorption rate, which is 0.04 ounce per inch squared, all right, and if I come over here and I put 70% of my fragrance oil and I'm using DPG, all right. Now, if I analyze this, it's going to tell me it's going to give me some data based on what I just entered. And it's going to recommend it, okay? All right, so this is a recommendation from this tool. It's telling me that absorption rate is within the acceptable range for most cardstocks. So this absorption rate is acceptable. This is what I want, so it's good, all right? However, it's telling me that warning, fragrance oil ratio is too high. This might cause the scent to become overpowering. Now, it's taking this, it's giving me this warning based on undiluted fragrance oil. Okay? But if I change this now to the regular 30%, if this was a high concentrated oil, okay? See, now it tells me it is optimal for balanced scent strength. Okay, so now it's telling me that. Okay, so the DPG is just saying it's ideal for long-lasting scent in controlled environment. So if I change this to Agio oil, let's see what happens. It's saying Agio is eco-friendly and works well with various fragrance oils. And if I change it to jojoba oil, it tells me jojoba oil provides a subtle scent and it's ideal for home air fresheners. Okay, and almond oil tells me that it's perfect for natural mild scents. And then the mineral oil tells me ensures uniform scent distribution and works well for car air freshness. Okay, so you guys can see the recommendation this tool is given based on your carrier oil type, right? And also is giving you a recommendation based on your fragrance oil strength. So now I'm going to keep using my 70% because I know that my fragrance oil is not concentrated, is diluted. So this I could just ignore this because I'm not using. If I'm using concentrated fragrance oil, yes, I shouldn't ignore this. I should go based on the recommendation. But because I'm using already diluted fragrance oil, this is fine. Okay, so if I say I'm using 80%, it's going to still give me the same warning. You see, nothing changed, the same warning. If I'm using 10%, let's see what it's going to give me. It's going to tell me critical fragrance oil ratio is too low. Increase to at least 20% for noticeable scent. You see, this tool is very, very good in recommending and analyzing your fragrance oil ratio and giving you more information about your carrier oil type. All right, guys, this is it for the dynamic recommendations. The next one will be the fragrance strength optimizer. All right, let's jump into that one. All right, guys, so the next one is the fragrance strength optimizer, and this tool just kind of helps you optimize your fragrance ratio. So it will tell you if your ratio is okay, and it will tell you the strength of your scent based on the percentage of your fragrance ratio. All right, so this is a very straightforward tool that you can use. For example, let's say you want your desired strength to be very light. Okay, you can just click on this and it will tell you to use 25% of your fragrance oil. Okay, so that's what it will tell you, and the explanation is light scent strength suitable for subtle fragrance. Okay, so if you don't want it to be so strong, maybe some of your customers don't like it strong. For example, one of my customers do not like the fragrance strong at all. Even when I make it like medium, she still doesn't like it. All right, she likes them very light. Okay, but other customers, they don't like it light at all whatsoever. Majority of the customers just like them mild, while a few of my customers like it really strong, like powering, overpowering. Some of them like it like that. Okay, but to this my particular customer, I will be using 25% of my fragrance ratio. That's what I'll be using for this customer. And this tool is able to help me know exactly the percentage I will be using for people who love light scent strength. Okay, so that's one of the reasons I love using this tool. So I don't have to guess anymore. I just come here, put in the, just check the drop down and pick the one I want, and then boom, I'm good to go. So if I want to do for my medium strength lovers, I go to medium strength, click on that. It tells me to use 40%. And it says medium scent strength, a balanced fragrance. So it's between the light and the strong. Okay. Then I can also go here and I put strong. So now it's giving me that 60%. All right. That's the strong or the strength of this fragrance. That's my desired strength, right? That's what I want. But it says between 50% to 70%. So for me, I use 70%. Okay, and then it explains that strong scent strength optimal for impactful fragrance. Okay, also you can come here, you can enter your own custom. So this is why I put my 70%. All right, and I click on that, so that's what I will use. Custom ratio selected, right? So ensures this matches your desired strength and strength. So it's telling you that make sure it matches your desired strength. So if this is what you want, you can go with that. All right, after that, you can decide to save this as a PDF. Okay, and that will be right here. Okay, that will be your PDF, or you can save it as an Excel. All right, so that is that for the fragrance strength optimizer. If you have any questions about one of these two or this one, please let me know. So we will be jumping to the next tool. All right, guys, the next one is the dynamic saturation level indicator. All right, so this is something I recommend for everyone that is into car air fresheners using cardstocks or home air fresheners using cardstock. The reason I recommend this is because it will tell you if your absorption rate is actually adequate for your cardstock, and it will give you a visual analysis or a visual picture on how the oils are being saturated within your cardstock. All right, so in a simplest way to put it, this tool shows you a picture of how your cardstock is being saturated in real time. All right, so let's go into this. So the first thing you want to do, you want to put in your cardstock length. So mine is 3.7 in height, in length, sorry, and 2.56 in width. So again, you got to put your absorption rate. So my absorption rate is 0.04. Yours might be 0.05. Okay, you have to use the absorption rate calculator to check your absorption for your cardstock. All right, so now we're going to click on calculate saturation. So right here it tells me it is fully saturated because of my absorption rate and also my dimensions. So it's telling me that acceptable saturation, okay, with this saturation rate, absorption rate, excuse me. Now it says, no, this absorption rate might be suitable for certain cardstock materials. Materials vary in their absorption threshold. That's why I advise people, if you're going to use my tools, if you're going to use the way I do my stuff with my cardstock, you want to make sure you're using the same cardstock material that I'm using, because some people have said I don't get the same result as you. My cardstocks are falling apart, that they are smearing, the images are rubbing off, the fragrance oils are not absorbed in the cardstock. Why is that happening? Everything you're telling me, yours is working but mine is not working. Simple answer to that is your material is probably different from the material I use. Some of you use pulp papers, some of you use felt, synthetic, okay, some of you use other stuff. Even someone was using the wood, wood carvings, and they are wondering why their car air freshener is different from mine. Obviously, you're using wood, a totally different material that I use. Okay, so it's going to be 100% different from what I'm using, and the result will be totally different. Okay, so that's why I say it is important. Whatever I'm doing, I'm using my own materials, and the people who are doing the same thing with me, a lot of them are using the same materials that I'm using. I've had so many questions on my YouTube channel. People have emailed me asking me that what materials I'm using, and I've made videos countless of times explaining that my materials are different. They are cotton absorbent. All right, they are different from a lot of the materials out there. That's why you have different result and from the result I have. Okay, so it's very important. So if you're going to use this tool, you're going to want to make sure that your material that you're using, actually if you're using this tool and you do your absorption test, your absorption rate, I guarantee you, will be different from my absorption rate because of the materials that we're using. We're using totally different materials. Okay, and also if your length is different, of course, it's going to be different. Even if you're using the same material as I'm using, if your dimensions are different from mine, it's going to affect your absorption rate. Okay, but the major thing is your material, it's going to be different. It will give you a different absorption rate. Okay, say for example, so this one tells me it's acceptable, right? For example, my absorption rate is, let me just say 0.02 for the sake of this, and I click on this. See, it's telling me that absorption rate's too low. Okay, so you can see that it's not even filling the white area. It's still on this red. It's not even filling the whole thing. So if I put it on 0.03, it went up a little bit, but it's still too low. Okay, so if I go to 0.04, which is my absorption rate, it tells me it's saturated. Okay, now if I do 0.05, it's going to tell me it's saturated as well. Okay, now it's giving me this square you see in here is giving me this square based on the dimensions. So if I use my home air freshener dimension, which is 8.1 in length and 3.1 in width, you see this image is going to change. See, it's giving me that dimension right now. Okay, and it's telling me that this is acceptable. If I change this to 0.09, for example, it tells me it's a perfect saturation. Okay, so it tells me this is actually perfect. If I go to 0.06, it tells me it's acceptable. Okay, if I go 0.10, it tells me it's perfect saturation. So it depends on the material you're using. Who knows? Your material might even give you a perfect saturation from my material, depending on what you're using. But I'm using my material because that's something I've trusted. That's something I've been using for a long time, and it's giving me the results I'm getting. So there is no need to switch it or change it. They said if it's not broken, don't fix it, right? So that's what I'm using. All right, so this is the tool, Dynamic Saturation Level Indicator. I highly recommend this for anyone who is really serious about making car air fresheners or home air fresheners using cardstocks. All right, guys, let's jump to the last one for today. All right, so the last one is going to be the Absorption Estimator tool. So this tool helps you to estimate the time it would take for your cardstock to absorb. You know, in the past, I used to put my cardstock in the oil and I leave them for like 30 minutes and they absorbed. But also, I didn't really understand the absorption rate at that time. Okay, so every day we grow, every day we learn something new. And since I've learned about the absorption rate and other factors that can help with your car air fresheners or your cardstock, it has helped me to improve in my production and in my quality of my car air fresheners. Okay, so with that being said, I've been able to develop this tool that gives you the saturation time, the absorption time actually, whereby you know that, okay, around this time my cardstock should be fully absorbed if you're using the right material and if you're entering the required data that this tool asks you to put in. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to select my cardstock thickness. I'm using 3 mm, and I'm going to put my dimension. It's 3.7 in length, and it's 2.56 in width. And my absorption rate is 0.04. As you guys can see, that absorption rate plays a big role in everything that we do. In most, if not all of these tools will require you to put your absorption rate, because with the absorption rate, that's how you can tell a lot of things about your cardstock. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is put the total oil needed per cardstock. Now, because I've used my main calculator before and I know the absorption rate and I know the oil that is required, the total oil that is required for each cardstock based on the information and the data the main calculator has given me. All right, so if I go here, if you haven't seen the video about the main calculator, that would be the first video I did about the tools, so you guys can go there and look at them, and you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so the main calculator gave me 0.30. Okay, when I use the 80% of the absorption adjustment factor, remember that? Okay, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should go and watch that video that I talked about the main calculator. It's the first video. All right, so the next one, it asks me about the number of cardstock. Let's say, for example, I'm making just one, just to show you guys what's going on here. And now it's asking me about temperature. Okay, so I'm going to put 75 degrees, and I'm going to change this to Fahrenheit. And for humidity, I'm going to say just 40%. So I'm just putting this as an estimate. Okay, so why temperature? So your temperature in your house affects the viscosity of your oil. Okay, that's why sometimes you see in the bottle they say, in this fragrance oil, store in a cool, dry place, right? Because of the viscosity that might happen, okay, in the oil. So your temperature affects the viscosity of your oil. At higher temperature, oils become less viscous, okay, and they absorb more quickly into cardstocks. All right. So therefore, like let's say 65 degrees Fahrenheit, the tool reduces absorption time by 10%. Okay, for by 75, it reduces it as well. But if it's below, let's say 20 degrees, okay, the tool increases absorption time. Okay, so it just increases it or decreases it. So with us having temperature of 75 degrees right now, it's going to reduce the time because the oil is less viscous. It's not like honey that is more viscous, right? So it's less. So the oil can penetrate into all the crevices of the cardstock, into all the corners, into all the fibers of the cardstock, because it's light. It's kind of liquidy, so it could get into all this stuff. But if it's thick like honey, it's more viscous, right? So it's going to take time, longer time, for it to really go through all of that. That's why temperature is very important with this. All right, so now what about humidity? So the humidity influences how well the cardstock can absorb the oil. High humidity means the cardstock might already have some moisture, right, inside of it, which slows absorption. Also, low humidity promotes faster absorption. Okay, so you want to also make sure your humidity it's the right place. So at 70% of your humidity, the tool will just increase the absorption time by 20%. And if it's below 30% humidity, the tool will decrease it, by maybe 10%. All right, so let's say our humidity is 40%, and let's just click on this. All right, so right now it's saying that the estimated absorption time is 57 minutes, okay, for one cardstock. And this just shows you the thickness factor, surface area, which it's covering. So it's showing you like what is actually covering to give you this 57 minutes per one cardstock. Okay, so that is it for the absorption time. If you want to play with this and do 2.0 mm's, and this I'll just say maybe 0.03, and this is going to be maybe 25, and let's say everything else remains the same. It's telling me it's going to take 42 minutes for this 2 mm cardstock, okay, to be fully absorbed. And it gives you the thickness factor of 0.8. Okay, so you're just using all this as a factor to determine all of this, to determine your time, your estimated time for absorption. All right, so if I want to say my say this. All right, so this one, what I'm doing, I'm putting my home air freshener because it's a big one. All right, and it requires a lot of fragrance oil. So you're talking about 1.1 ounce, 1.15 ounces of fragrance oil for one. I'm going to leave the rest, the temperature and humidity the same. So if I put this, it's telling me it's supposed to absorb fully 1 hour and 6 minutes. Okay. So let me make this clear. When I say 1 hour, when I say absorption time is different from curing time. Okay, so the fragrance oil will be fully absorbed at this time. However, that doesn't mean you might not see some areas that are still wet. Okay, it's different from the oil being absorbed. So if you weigh that cardstock at that moment, it will give you the weight that you've already had when you did your first absorbed weight measurement. It should give you that, but that doesn't mean it is dry at that time. So you might still have to keep this overnight to make sure everything is dry, and then you have to allow for that curing time, which for 3 mm's it will take anywhere between 48 to 72 hours for it to fully be cured. I just want you guys to understand that. So when you have this time and you go look at it, you're like, oh, but it's still wet. Yes, because the absorption time has been reached. But now you have to go to the next phase of letting everything cure, everything settle, everything fully absorb and cure in. Okay, so that is what I want you guys to know as well. All right, so that would be this. That will be the end of this video for this particular tool. The next tool we'll be talking about will be the quality assurance checklist. Will be warning and tip tools. I love this one. I love this particular one. And then we'll be talking about the batch management and resource tracker. And then we'll be talking about the testing module. All right, so this is the next video that I'll be talking about, and then there will be the last one will be the fragrance blends simulator, and we'll be talking about customer preference tracker, and then we'll talk about the wholesale profit manager. This one a lot of people will love, a lot of people will use. I'm using it currently to do a wholesale price list for my retail stores. Okay guys, so that is it for now, and here is where you can get it: ancandles.com/tools, and you can either buy them individually. You can go here and just click buy now, buy now, buy now. You can buy them individually if you want, or you can buy the complete tool kit, which is $96.46. If you buy them individually, you end up paying $182. Okay, and it will be like any new feature, any new tools that I create to add to this, you will pay for that extra. Okay, and at the end it will cost you more. But if you buying this, any new tool that I put in, I send it to you for free. Okay, and any updates, you get new updates. If I do any new updates on any of the tools, like I've done sometimes already, I've sent it to people who already bought this, and it's free to send them those new updates. Okay, all right, but if you're buying this individually, there will be no update sent to you. All right guys, that's what I have for you. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye bye.